I am just waiting for this link to allow us to share to Facebook. Here, a second.
Very good, very good.
Okay. Yay. Some technical difficulties getting started here, but welcome everyone to this week on Magnet Marketers, where we're going to be diving into the world of search, specifically voice search. There's lots of buzz around it. We've seen some Super Bowl ads with Alexa using voice search. So we want to just dive into what search is, what voice search is, most importantly, how it works, and what the future of SEO will look like as voice search becomes more and more popular with some of our favorite apps that we're using. But before we dive in, just a quick introduction to us. I'm Jessica Phillips, president of Now Marketing Group and the founder of the Relationship Marketing System and Magnet Marketers, here to help you create repeat referral business with your ideal audience online. And as always, my awesome co-host with Magnet Marketers, Mike Gingrich, president of Digital Hill, co-founder of the popular apps tab site Loftio, a published author, and also the co-founder, or founder, I should say, of a nonprofit I Give Global, where he lives and breathes by the philosophy of always being uncommon and always adding value. Welcome, Mike.
Thank you, Jessica. Good to be here today.
Thank you. And if my voice sounds a little different today, it's because I am actually going live from my headset. Unfortunately, my Audio Technica microphone just bit the dust right as we were getting started here. So, want. I will be using some voice search in Amazon to repurchase that handy little item here. So I apologize in advance for the audio here, but that won't delay our show for today as we start diving into voice search. And Mike, I'm going to let you just the definition of what voice search is. I'm going to share this video and then we'll join back to kind of go through how it's changing the world of search.
Yeah, no, I think that when you think about voice search, I mean, you need to be thinking about largely your mobile device and thinking through how search has changed with that little magnifying glass. So it's basically, you know, if you're going on to Google and you get your keyboard up and, you know, you hit the magnifying glass and you speak a search and then you search for that. That's what we're talking about, like with voice search is basically talking in the phrase that's going to be searched for. And basically with the adoption of smartphones and the way that more apps are integrating, it's just moving rapidly in terms of use and adoption rate. And that does impact some things for how you can be found online. So that's what we want to talk about today.
Yeah, absolutely. Actually, I was looking up some stats here before that, and Google says that 20% of search will be done by voice this year. And it's already kind of trending that way now. And that 55% of teens and 41% of adults use voice search on a daily basis. And that number is rapidly growing. And like you said, it's majority of it is because of our handy dandy smartphone devices. But even more than that, now it's built into our computers. I know I have a Mac here. Siri is built in right now to my computer for searching and for doing a whole wide range of virtual assistant kind of tasks right from my computer. And then also we have our home devices like, you know, Google Home with the Alexa and all that built in. And our cars now even have some voice prompts as well. So voice search is just becoming more and more popular and just in our everyday items that we're using, and with virtual reality and augmented reality, I see voice search kind of even growing more and more rapidly as we kind of progress with these advances.
Absolutely. I think that it's just a natural evolution of what you do with your smartphone and being on the go.
Yeah. But as you mentioned, like as we're speaking these things in, if you've ever done a video and you've tried to type out your script ahead of time and then read it live on video, you notice that we speak a lot differently than we type. So as it relates to voice search, we search for things a lot different than we would type them into a search bar, or to ask a question within Google, right? We're asking a question in a conversational manner. So that's where voice search is differentiated from actual just regular search on Google, because we're typing in longer phrase questions. We're typing in more specific things that are ownership related. So like, what's a coffee shop nearest to me? Or what is, who's playing at the Super Bowl 2017 right now? You're going to ask for things that specifically could be answered back in a way that's conversational and almost like your device having conversation with you. So we'll break this down to, one, how voice search is changing and how it's going to be capable of interpreting what we're answering, what questions that we're asking and its responses back, and then go into what businesses can do to be ahead of the curve and competitive as it relates to voice search, some things that they need to be thinking about and taking into consideration with their website and things that they're putting online.
Yep. And I think, one of the key points that to talk about that you mentioned there briefly and things is how search engines are getting smarter. Okay. So I think that Google, for instance, continues to broaden in return. I mean, that's always their goal, is to return the most relevant results for a search query. And they continue to evolve their algorithm to to push out those who are trying to game the system and to try to return accurate, resource rich, helpful results. And they've continued to expand to not only just kind of like rote this keyword, okay, this result, but meaning and interpretation, and voice is a key part of that.
Yeah, absolutely. And just like you said, they're trying to interpret a website. They're not looking at your website and seeing, okay, this website as a whole collectively, should it rank for this thing? They're looking for specific pages and specific answers, snippets within your website, and they're looking at it like code. So it's nothing, personal. It's literally just, do you have the right answers on your website that a user is looking for? And that's how it's going to interpret and read it back to the person that's searching. And like you said, is it the most relevant answer to that question? That's the key, most relevant.
Yep.
To that. So here's some of the areas when I was looking up how voice search is changing. The first one is it's now conversational shopping. So I don't know if you've seen the Alexa commercials at the Super Bowl, where they were saying, order me a pizza, from Pizza Hut, and book me book an Uber for so-and-so. And they're doing conversational shopping. And that is the future and is here now for a lot of these tools. You can actually order via a conversation with a device. So that's one way. Any thoughts on that?
I think that the smart piece is like order a pizza from Pizza Hut, and boom, it's identifying, geolocation, where are you at, where's the nearest Pizza Hut, that type of thing. Amazing.
Yeah, and it's going to be capable, and it is capable now, that you can train your devices to be smart, to say like, order my favorite blah blah, and it's going to start keeping in into a database what your preferences are, which is huge. So voice shopping right now, and conversational searches via like just an instant answer, frequently asked questions. If you've ever played around when we all first got Siri and just asked Siri random silly questions, well, that vocabulary and database is going to be getting a lot larger right now, because it's kind of built for those frequently asked questions and questions back and forth. So little snippets of answers, whether or not it's actually directing them to your website or not, the answers are going to be provided within voice search there.
Yeah. And how about that concept, like where the search, based on your search, I mean, this is it's learning based on your previous answers. So there's not just the indexing that's out there on the web, but there's contextual based building on that information. So that's a unique and powerful thing as well.
Progressively profiling your answers. And so it is getting smarter over time, specifically for you. This is where it becomes incredibly important as a business owner to also be collecting just as much data, on your customers when they're coming to your site, and learning their behaviors, learning their likes, learning more about them over time, so you can customize your content that you're putting out and your information that you're putting on your website to answer their questions around them. And we'll talk more about that as we continue on here. But they used an example here, and this was in from Search Engine Journal. They said, let's say, for example, you're asking the question about, show me photos of, what were they saying here? Show me photos of the Eiffel Tower, and then they're like, what year was it established, right? So they would know, whatever you're asking, this voice search would know what it is as a follow-up, because you've already asked the first question. So it's another way of kind of building that context and conversational data around the voice search as a whole. So some of these, as we've talked about, as it's growing, right, in the voice search, and as we're using it more, what can businesses do, though, to make sure that their site is ready for this voice search, and how is it able to compete, I guess, for a voice search? And there's many areas that you can do this, but the very first one is, if you have your website, your pages that you have on your website right now, they need to be organized in what's called a sitemap. So you say, Google, Search Console, google.com/Search Console, that here's how I've organized my website. This is my homepage. This is my about section. This is my products. Here's XYZ product. Here's my contact information. Here's my map, etc. And you have a sitemap around your map. Your web developer or web designer would know what a sitemap is, and they need to submit that both on the site to where a user could see it if they literally clicked on it, but also so the search engines can see that. That's the most basic thing that you can do. Most people are already including a sitemap now, but a lot of them are not including it for the user to be able to see, but it's able to be seen by Google. So you just want to make sure, one, that that's submitted. That's the very first simple thing that you can do. The next thing, Mike, you want to cover the second one?
No, I think that
sure.
You want to talk about the schema? Is that what you want to kind of go into then, or you want to talk about? I think it's another level down, and in terms of, this is kind of like at the developer level. So it's going to be important for your website to, again, just backing up a little bit. We always say that websites are not, once and done. They're not, if you build it, they will come kind of things. They are, in today's age, they need to be continually evolving, improving, or redone. And this is kind of, one of those pieces to be prepared for, is that your code behind the scenes, some of that, what we say, schema markup code that you put on the site, can be helpful to them. And if you've ever used rich snippets before, you kind of understand what this is about. But usually there's, HTML tags, and an HTML tag is another helpful piece to tell the browser and this what Google has indexed about that, how to display information included in a tag. So particularly for a browser, to say, if I say this is a H1 and here's the title, and this is another H1, it's telling the browser to display whatever that title was in a heading 1 format, which is the largest title one. Okay, and then a Google, a search engine, kind of looks at what is the H1 for a page. That's typically one of the most important pieces of that page. Okay, so that's kind of a little bit of what the markup is, and now we're kind of getting into a little bit more markup, schema markup, that helps your site be found better based on
Context.
for voice search.
Yeah.
In terms of context. And so I think that that's the next phase you're gonna start seeing some more outlines of some additional schema markup to include in your sites.
Yeah. That was a really good answer to that question.
Okay.
So I'm going to share just an example of what you're saying so people can visualize it, because if they have not heard of H1, H2, before, or meta descriptions, any of that before, you've seen it though. You just didn't realize that you already know what it is. So I'm going to just do a quick screen share and I'll be back, but I want to show you kind of what Mike is talking about here. So as screen. Okay, so this is what Mike is talking about. So this is actually search engine results that we all see in Google. Now, if I was searching for like a recipe, let's just say I am searching for cupcake recipe. Okay, you see this like rich snippet here. Now, if there was photos and things like that, this is like a rich snippet that could show up. Here's another one that's going to show some photos with a link and the how-to right next to it. That's more of a rich snippet. Now, what he's talking about, like H1, H2 descriptions. So in H1, let me go to our website here, Now Marketing Group. So as you go into an H1, if you go into a page, let's just go to, this is probably a bad page to go to explain this. But let me go to this page section here. Okay, so the top like header, this could be an H1 description. So I'm saying this page is all around graphic design. This could be considered like an H2. Then it's, here's, usually people are using this for styling, but now it's going to be more used around what this is actually like, defining the page and providing answers to the questions that are being asked into Google. Okay. And the descriptions that we all have on our website is and what we're turning into Google is what's called like the meta description. So it's basically summarizing what your business page is about here and submitting that in and turning that into Google. And then of course we all have, the keywords that are around each page. Now, bringing this back, I'm going to stop sharing my screen here so you don't get that weird funnel here. Okay, make sure I didn't lose Mike. All right, perfect. Good. So this is all bringing context around, like Mike said, the page. So one, we were before giving keywords, now we're giving even more context around the page. So we can go into more detail around what that page actually is. And the best way to do that, one is the schema. That's what your developer would do. But the other way to do that, honestly, is just having conversational, really solid content on your website page. So things that the users can see. And we could see that Google was progressing towards this model when they announced their Hummingbird update, the Penguin and Panda, updates that they were doing. But the Hummingbird update was the one that affected 92% of search engine results. And that's just saying that your website is all, based on user-facing content that is very conversational in its approach. So when someone is typing in a question or a long tail keyword, so instead of marketing Lime, Ohio, they would say, what are marketing firms for social media in Lime, Ohio, for example. That's a more of a long term, or a long tail, search term. Those kinds of things, if it's on your website in a conversational tone, it's going to be more related and closely matched up to what someone is searching and give you a better chance of finding an exact hit for what they're searching for. So the context and the content on your site, it could be just answering questions. This is where Marcus Sheridan comes into play. Your clients ask, you answer. So all the questions that are frequently asked questions, you should have them on your website, because then it's going to match up to the search engine result, both typing it in search and your voice search. So it's going to give you more chances of ranking and providing a better customer experience because you're answering the questions that they have right there on your site.
Yep. No, and I like that because another way it simply comes in, this has impacted me in the way I write titles. You know, I mean, I try to write a title to a blog post in many ways, the way someone might ask it. You know,
Smart.
I remember that I've had a post that is ranked very well on Google for a long time, and it was basically the answer to a question. You know, how do I get notifications from a Facebook page? Okay,
Simple.
so that was the title, but it's something that's similar to what somebody's going to type in or voice search in. They're going to talk that way, and so that might be something, and so it's just very relevant that way.
Yeah, so you brought up another good point. The blog on your site is going to give you more opportunities to rank, because like we said, Google doesn't care if you have 1,000 pages on your website. I mean, it's going to impact you definitely, but you rank, each website page ranks on the search engine, not a website as a whole. So every single page you have, so that blog that Mike has is an opportunity to rank on Google. So you have a blog, you can answer questions there, and we had a very similar situation. One of our blogs, we never expected to be this huge, but it was just a question that we got a lot, was which is better, Evernote or what was it? Evernote or I forget the other one that Jeremiah wrote on, and was just giving feedback for, you know, keeping notes and organizing, you know, communications between teams. And that blog's ranked really, really well, and we get a lot of traffic to it. But it's just like you said, thinking of that in the titles as you're on your blog post. That's something that, you know, you have to train, I guess, to get back used to doing that. But it's a very wise way to put your content into context as you're posting it online. So just writing a good content. The other thing that was mentioned as we're studying around voice search is things that you should always include then as questions that are typically being asked. You know, start with the who, the what, the where, the when, the why, and the how. So the who, what, when, where, why, how.
Back to school, back to English class.
Exactly. So looking for answers around, you know, who you are, you know, what you offer, where are you at, when are you open, you know, why you're doing what you do and how you do it. You know, think of those kinds of questions as you're writing your content, and things that will be a quick answer to those questions. And then also follow it up with like a frequently asked questions page. This will give you a huge opportunity to appeal to a voice search market right there.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think you need to do kind of some keyword research, not just based on a keyword, and maybe not just even based on a phrase now, but extend it to a kind of a conversational phrase, conversational query is another way to put it, that type of thing. They're starting to call them, but those are longer phrases. And do research on those to kind of see how many times people are searching for those, the intensity, the number of searches that have been done, and that kind of tool.
Absolutely. You're right. Because, you know, you may think that people are searching it by a buzzword that you know, but they may in fact be searching it by something that's more relevant to them and natural to them. So if you're doing some research, that research is going to tell you what people are actually speaking into the device and what they're saying, and how that will then relate to what you're actually putting in there. So we talked about frequently asked questions. We talked about analyzing the content on your website page. Blogs is a huge opportunity for research those titles in a conversational query style, like what would somebody else be asking for. And then you talked about schema, you know, and schema, not only, as you mentioned, you know, putting some context around there, there are going to be ways of organizing the markups when your web developer puts that in there to say whether it's an article, a local business, or a restaurant, you know, etc. And Google will be ranking and sorting by that as well. So kind of like how YouTube does it now, where not only do you put up a video, but then you organize it, whether this is, you know, people and blogs or whether this is education. Google's kind of taken that same approach above and beyond how they're doing it now, because now it's just like, you know, the feed, and then there's news section, then there's photos, etc. But now there'll be, you know, other areas where it'll be sorting and filtering the content to see what's the most relevant for that search. It's
changing, folks, and so you need to do that. No, did you mention, do you want to go through keyword research tools that can help with this?
Sure. Yeah. You can, if you want to do the first one, that's fine.
You're more familiar with it, but I'm going to say
Sure.
it's Rank Tracker, and
Yep.
that's kind of the one that you've done some research on, and it does allow you to do autocomplete queries using the keyword and a wildcard. So maybe we have to break that down, what that is.
Yeah, so it'll let you, so say there's a search query that it's giving you, but that'll also give you different variations of that. So you can see all the different ways that somebody could ask the same question, basically. And you can know to have that as a follow-up. So maybe you're writing a blog on one topic, but then you do kind of another variation of it with just the other search query in mind. But then also, as you're putting the context around that article in the back end, when you're putting the schema in, you can say, here's the other variations to this. But it has to be very specific. You can't stuff it the same way that people tried to stuff websites back in the day. You will get caught if you put in Google purgatory forever. So,
yep.
But there's other tools out there. Actually, HubSpot has some great free research tools that they have there. I know Moz has some great tools on there. Google has keyword tools on their site as well. So there's lots of tools out there. I think oh, what's the one that you use? I think we talked about it before. Was it CoSchedule? Do you use that is that just for blog titles?
Yes. It helps me generate some of those pieces. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So we'll put some links here into the side so you can go back and check some of those out. Or if you're using a tool right now to just analyze your blog titles and find out, what the rank is for that, or what's the search, I guess, results for that. I think the same thing applies as it does to like AdWords. You basically want to go for a difficulty score of 50 or below. That's where you know that you've really met a match for the search query. If somebody's all, going after the same exact long tail phrase, it's going to be a lot harder to rank for that. So you want to make sure that you're going with a difficulty score of 50 or below.
50 or below, there you have it.
Yeah. So it's something relevant to your business and industry as well.
Yeah.
So I watched a few videos from Moz, the Whiteboard Fridays and some of the others, and there's kind of some mixed reviews though on how this is going to affect search overall. So I don't know that there's a definitive answer that it's really changing everything that we know about search, but it definitely is adding more context, as we keep saying, to how voice search is being used. So, I mean, if you've ranked really well on Google right now, chances are you're probably still going to continue ranking well on voice search. That's what everybody's kind of saying. But there's just going to be other ways that you could rank if you're focusing on this. Another key point that they've all said, as I've went through some of their trainings as well, is that don't be afraid of getting into that instant answers box as well, because like what we just seen with the rich snippets where it's just giving the answer and you're not really going to the website, because it's still going to help the more traffic you get to that section to boost up your traffic on your website overall, with people coming back for more detailed answer and more descriptions on that answer. So I don't know that it's necessarily changing everything, but
no, it's not changing everything.
But it is, but it is changing as far as we evolve. And I know it's putting a lot of emphasis, for local businesses, especially. This is where I see it having the biggest impact is on the local level, with contractors competing off, from one another for, coffee shops and restaurants and, insurance agencies and things like that. I think that's where we'll see a big piece of this really coming into play.
And I think it just, again, helps businesses or forces businesses to take a look at their content and their website. Okay, so are you, number one, do you have a website that is ready for this, where you can add content to on a regular basis, and you need to be doing that? So how is your footprint online? Are you active? Gone are the days when a static site was going to do sufficient. It's now no longer sufficient. And basically, I think it also can change how you do your titles. I think that's just a simple way. And your content, as you said, answer the questions. And when you answer the questions, the FAQ, it's like, identify the question that they would ask, what that they're putting into search. How do I do this? And, what is this? And so in your content, add that question, answer that question. It's you being a good resource, but it's making you relevant for voice search as well.
Exactly. And I know you and I both talked about this, past 2 years, is building a resource center on the website, having that go-to spot to get all those answers, whether that can incorporate your video, your blogs, and your frequently asked questions all into one section. That resource center could be key. What I'm most interested in seeing, and only time will tell, is how this will correlate and how search will be affected for voice if people are using like templated sites that have all this bulk code in the back end, how the schema workarounds will happen with that, with all that bloat of code in the back end. I don't know. We'll have to see if that'll make a difference in ranking or not. Time will tell. But I just thought I found it interesting, the Wix and the website tonight, and the GoDaddy commercials for building your own website, making it look super, super easy, after the Alexa commercials. I just found that interesting. They were by each other, I don't know.
Absolutely, folks. Absolutely. Yeah. So, I mean, I think it's just a relevant topic. We're trying to say, hey, how do you be relevant today? How do you begin to, how do you attract the right people? And so this is that attraction key point, the Magnet Marketers is all about.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll follow this up with a blog that kind of outlines the who, what, when, how, and where to this voice search that we can share with all of you. But in the meantime, just another announcement. If you were not with us last week, magnetmarketers.com has officially launched. Woohoo! And we're going to have some special offers. Yeah, special offers for signups that happen before March 1st when the first cohort kicks off. And what magnetmarketers.com will provide to you is training on topics such as this, but in an organized fashion, from identifying your buyer personas, how to brand that gets results and attraction to your company overall, how to set up your social media lead generation funnel, local SEO from the experts, and each social media network, how to truly rock that network and make it stand out. We have a fantastic lineup of speakers and trainers. I'm all in awe of all their work. But we have this where you can sign up at magnetmarketers.com. There is a free social media toolkit just for going to the website. It gives you some tricks and templates that you can have free of charge. And then we have a special offer rolling out right now until March 1st for you to sign up. 34 videos in total delivered directly into your inbox each week. You'll have a chance to watch the video at your own leisure, get some follow-up items and resources and links with that. And at the end of the course, you'll be able to take a certification test, if you will, and become a certified magnet marketer. So we hope that you will check that out. We're really, really excited about this and look forward to helping you in your journey of becoming a magnet with your marketing versus being a bullhorn. We will be back here next week, 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, talking about titles again, but in the form of email titles. So email titles, what works for getting opens, what doesn't, what's some things you need to consider. All of that back here next week, 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We thank you guys for joining us today and hope you have a fantastic remainder to your week. And as always, thank you, Mike, for joining me.
Good to be here. Good to connect again with you on this, always, cutting edge, leading edge topics, and hopefully deliver some value to people.
Absolutely. Hopefully next week I'll be back with a working microphone. But until then, I'll be searching on Amazon. Have a great week. See you guys.
Take care.
Bye.